Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call our special meeting today, board meeting today, the May the 8th, 2023 budget work session. Our first item on the discussion today is on the agenda would be the budget discussion. Tad, like you have anything, or the board members have anything?
Well, I can start with the county budget if you'd like, and then we can go into any questions related to it, or if there's any discussion on the school budget.
That will be fine, Mr. Tadlock.
All right. So for fiscal year 24, the proposed budget is $51,495,779. The current tax rate for fiscal year 23 is 61 cents per $100. In the draft budget, it includes a tax rate of 68 cents per 100, which is a 7-cent increase. As proposed, the subtotal expenditures exceed anticipated subtotal revenue by approximately $2.8 million, therefore dipping into the undesignated general fund balance. At the 7-cent increase, we are looking at approximately the 15% in the undesignated fund balance as it relates to the subtotal estimated expenditures. Now, Davenport will be here Thursday to introduce policy on fund balance policy. So we'll be getting some additional information on that. Now, typically, this would drop the fund balance to about 6.6 million. Years past, what we typically like to see is about 7 to 7.5 million. Otherwise, we have to start looking at borrowing some money. But that's just some round figures as to kind of give you all some idea. Kind of an overview of where we're seeing our expenses. Health insurance for the county this year was at 9.9% increase, which is approximately $100,000 increase. We do have the salary increase at 5% for county staff, and as proposed by the school, it was 6.25%. It does include the county salary scale adjustments, as it is not, this salary scale has not been adjusted the last several years. So it adjusts that, and it adjusts the county employees accordingly. The budget does include increasing salaries and compensation for Board of Supervisors, other boards, and commissions. And the budget does include a 2% that has been built into the budget in the event that the state passes the 7% salary increase versus the 5%. It also includes $7,500 to join the Rural Solar Development Coalition. That's billed at the beginning of each year, and it would be prorated if we were to join it after July 1st. So $2,500 for calendar year 23, and then $5,000 for calendar year 24. Also budgeted for the county reassessment for fiscal year 25, and that we are looking at would be June of 26, fiscal year 27, when that would go into place, unless the board sees a need to speed that process up sooner rather than later. IT, increased cost of service, dedicated internet for county offices, and that's primarily, previously we had some concerns for the phone system that we're on now with the sheriff's office, and that would be a dedicated line for that system. And of course, various software increases. Sheriff's Office, new deputy position at $74,713, which that includes the benefits. $25,000 for 4 new part-time dispatchers, and $20,000 to cover overtime costs. Fire departments are asking for additional funding for equipment. That's $98,477. Emergency services, additional staffing, which would be 4 additional staff members at $258,515. Sanitary district employee, $55,327. Public schools, you've had that presentation before, $2.3 million. Northumberland County Public Library, $62,183, and that's needed to maintain state and federal funding options they have. Solid waste, we have just bidded that out, and we're looking in the neighborhood about $350,000 increase for solid waste. Then we have the CIP funding for the schools, $840,274, and you will also be getting that from the Planning Commission as they've reviewed the CIP at a previous meeting. And lastly, we have the emergency regional radio system at a cost of approximately $435,000. Now, Davenport will also have additional information regarding that particular item at Thursday's meeting as well. So that's kind of an overview of the total budget expenditures, kind of where we're seeing the major increases. I don't know if the board has specific questions or comments, or as far as questions on the school board budget that you all would like us to find out.
Additional funding for the fire department, is that only one department or all?
That's for both departments.
Both parts, okay.
For the solid waste, what improvements will it be making?
Well, there are really no improvements. It's just trying to maintain the services that we have.
Okay, the health insurance. Hey, what is the big reason? I know if you have so many cases, it goes up, right?
Right.
Did we have many cases this year?
There have been quite a few, yes, sir, and we are combined with the school division too. So both the 9.9% is seen on the county and the school division equally. So
That's all I have this time.
The 2% in case state employees were to get the 7% total, could you come up with that figure? How much that would be total if that were a possible removal?
yeah, that's actually on the, if you look under the Board of Supervisors, page page 6, the very bottom, it's $118,772.
Because what I'm reading, General Assembly, they're not going to do anything at the earliest until after the June 20th primaries. And thus, if they did it, even if they came up with a magical agreement relatively short after that, there's no way we could have anything done prior to, advertised and approved prior to July the 1st. So if additional funding came down, we could do it as a budget amendment and another appropriation to help get this budget down some.
Right.
Not saying not do it, but, you know, if we're looking at possible scenarios.
Right. No, that would certainly be one area to look at, and it was just put in there as a placeholder for the time being for further discussion.
Well, I understand. I don't know, it was discussed, but the way the General Assembly was discussing, I couldn't want to bet on anything.
No.
And you have obviously no feel for what would happen in the event the federal government doesn't raise the debt ceiling, and what that would do to our budget.
I don't know at this point.
I don't think anybody knows anything about that.
Brian, you got any questions?
No, not at this time.
And the additional employees for the EMS agency, that would put 5 per shift.
That's correct.
So the event you have, you'd either have someone roving around as an additional ALS provider, and/or if somebody sick or whatever couldn't come in, then you'd still be able to make 2 full crews.
You would still be solid 2 full crews.
So is that going to eliminate part-time staff?
I don't think so, no. I think they would still need, maybe not as much, but they would still need some part-time, I would think.
But that would be a cost savings.
It should be a cost savings from the point of view of last minute, I can't come in, then you'd have to call some, part-time provider, because obviously they're on a rotating shift. Now, this budget doesn't include anything about a deputy chief or captain for the medic crew, does it?
It does not. No.
Now, the one thing is, if you get 4 more, that's going to be 20 full-time plus however many part-time. That's getting beyond the normal scope of control for one person to do. Normally, it's 3 to 5.
5 to 7.
5 to 7. So, and right now,
I see your point.
the chief, he's entitled to a vacation or whatever, and they've got to call him. So I think it's something we need to consider relatively, especially if we're considering 4 more people. I have no idea what kind of salary you'd go, and then you can figure the benefits based upon that, but maybe get Mr. Balderson to check to see whether the surrounding agencies see how many paid crew they have, and whether or not they have a captain or deputy chief, whatever word you want to call them, versus ours. And I know Westmoreland's got one, Richmond County's got one.
All of them do.
All of them do but us. What about Lancaster?
I think they got a second in charge as well.
So I think especially with our numbers growing, I think it's only fair to consider that.
Good point.
I think we ought to look into what kind of cost savings it's going to be too. Right now, we're well over $100,000 a year in overtime.
Yeah.
And that in part-time, so if there's a savings, some of that savings could go toward the salaries of new hires.
Well, there was, like we all know, Mr. Balderson came from home on that boat sinking scenario. It was very helpful. Obviously, if there was a captain, deputy chief who was living in the county or whatever, or nearby, could have saved some of that too. And just say, suppose Mr. Balderson was he was on vacation and enjoying his family or whatever, then they wouldn't have had anybody necessarily in charge other than a shift leader, who would then be at the same time a provider.
Well, while we're talking about EMS and funds, what about the billing fees? We have not adjusted those billing fees, and I think we need to adjust the billing fees according to what the insurance rates will pay.
And also in conformity with area agencies, what they're
as
charging.
well.
We don't want to be the lowest one in the bunch.
No, but we're getting down there, and
Yeah, I know.
and every little bit helps.
Yep.
And how much of these are we still setting aside all of these funds from the revenue recovery for EMS supplies? Did we talk about one time taking half of that each year and trying to put it back in to help offset some of the salaries, or we continuing to put it all away for supplies?
A lot of that, what we've been doing is setting that aside for capital projects, like the ambulances, any stretchers or anything like that.
So our EMS billing looks like it's right about $270,000, so and we just use that number. So if we really don't buy anything big for 2 or 3 years, we're gonna continue to let
Yep.
$270,000 build up in that fund.
Yeah, and we can, we give that monthly report.
Right.
So,
And
That-
see,
that
I
kinda
know
shows.
Lancaster, because I've tracked that, they just roll it straight over into general fund.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
And then that's where your CIP, you can plan for replacement through that.
Right.
Then your funding you may only do half for whatever number to come back into the general fund, but have some over there. And they also got a number of them over there, number of ambulances, so hopefully they can do some rotation so you
Right.
don't rack them up all in one.
That's right.
Their squad rotates different squads to first due, second due to keep from this kind of scenario. You try to have them doing like that. Not that we put that many. And the other thing is, I met with Mr. Balderson last week or whatever. All agencies in Northumberland County are being checked by Medicare for that piece.
Audit?
Yep. And if it isn't done, then there's gonna be a 10% reduction. They don't ask simple little questions either.
And I know during the pandemic, the last couple of medic units we purchased the full amount.
Yeah,
But we need to start making these big purchases with the assistance of a grant.
yeah, the rescue squad assistance.
That's
grant.
right.
They did the first one, I think, was that way.
Yeah.
That'd be a 50% savings.
That's right.
We won't get the 80/20.
No,
Yeah, but anything you can get's a help.
well, you're looking at a medic unit rated at $300,000.
And you don't have to go for it every year.
No.
We don't burn that much.
And
but
you might not get that grant every time, and if you don't get it the first time, you reapply and purchase
Right.
one then. You got a plan.
Yeah,
And, but I just think it's funds there to help offset our spending, and we need to take advantage of it.
and the PEMS region is generally one of the lower ones requesting and receiving too.
That is true.
You're certainly not gonna get it if you don't request it.
That's right.
And the next cycle would be September.
All right, any other questions or comments?
I'd like to look into the fees. Now's the time to adjust them.
We can do that ourselves
Yes.
anytime.
And while we're gonna look at those fees, I think we need to look at all of the county fees at one time. Do everything one time.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, we've started pulling that information together. Mr. Basie has pulled the different fees from different counties, and we've put that into, Mr. Basie's put that into a spreadsheet. And so we've given that to Building and Zoning to look at some of their fees and get some recommendations on those. So
Okay.
just to let the board know that it is being worked on.
All right, that's good. Any other questions or comments? Staff have anything else?
No, sir.
Oh, on the sheriff's request for an additional deputy, what's the deputy's starting salary?
I can get that for you.
Because I'm looking at, what, 74,000 for a new deputy with benefits?
Yeah, that's with benefit.
That's a very good start. Because
It is.
I thought it was like in the mid-40s. And if you do the rule of thumb of a third, that don't come up to 74. 74, 713,
And then you got a vehicle on top of that?
yeah. That might be built into it already. Does the sheriff have a vehicle built into that in his budget?
I believe so,
He
yeah.
usually has 3 to 4.
And I
vehicles.
know he also was going after that grant too,
Right.
which may be some savings there.
And the library needs that 62,000 just to maintain this, state and federal funding.
Yeah, if you don't have a certain amount.
Yeah, I know they don't have a certain amount, yeah. Well, that's no problem, all right.
The only way it would ever be lower is if there was a bigger endowment, but
Yeah, I know.
we're not in the same position as Lancaster County is. At least not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
It was 53.5.
Starting salary for a deputy?
Yeah, that's what was requested.
Not bad money, is it?
Want to do it? Take special person, put a badge on.
Yeah, not bad.
Check what the comp board pays. And, I didn't think it was that high. Because I know we got the supplement added to it, but certainly find out what the base is and then what we can go from there
Sure.
as a consideration, but.
And that would be total county, because all the comp board positions are full,
Yeah, but just to find out what they consider good salary.
the starting salary. All right, yeah, we can look that up for you.
Talking back with the sheriff's office versus the EMS, you got the sheriff, you got the major, you got the captain. They ain't got any lieutenants, to my knowledge, do they?
I don't know.
They used to, but anyway, you got 2 supervisors over and above, or right below the sheriff, so, and they have a few more people, but I know they got a lot more people than we all think, but still, they're splitting it a whole lot lower per supervision.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Doesn't seem like 6 years has gone by on the county reassessment, but it has.
Well, we had a to-go, remember, but when you count,
Yeah,
whatever that was, Blue Ridge or whatever they were,
whatever.
only a handful of them that does it, that's the problem.
All right, Mr. Tadlock, you got any other comments or anything else?
Not on that. We'll get that information for the board on the fees and the comp board.
All right. Do you have anything else before we go into closed meeting?
I don't know, sir.
Or does any board member have anything else before we go into closed meeting?
No?
All right.
Well, I don't know enough to ask the question. How to fix our radio system in the meantime.
Duct tape.
I'm afraid that's what's being used. You got too much duct tape between the dispatch and the medic crew, so they can't talk.
Or maybe not enough.
Well, just wait, but I could hear both sides of the conversation.
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong.
I'm gonna tell you, it's getting to the point, and it's happened this week. EMS has been on calls, they can't talk to dispatch, deputies been on calls, can't talk to dispatch. And I don't know what they gotta do, but I know what needs to happen.
Well,
System needs to be fixed, and we need to move forward with getting it replaced
Well,
and stop talking about it and make it
Well, I know
happen.
that.
how about surrounding counties? Do they have the same problem?
No, sir, they're not on our radio system.
If they're Harris, well, what's Lancaster? Radio
They're,
communications?
they're Motorola,
Everybody else is basically Harris.
yeah. But this has been going on 2 or 3 months now.
2 or 3 months, it basically.
Well, the new issue has been going on
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 months. The system hadn't been right for quite some time,
It never really was right, in my opinion.
but you're talking about getting somebody in a jam, and they need dispatch, and they can't reach dispatch to get help.
And you can't rely upon the cell phone, because there are places in this county, can
No.
you hear me now, has a whole new meaning. I've been down Reedville places, I wanted to call the hospital. You have to go to the end of the sidewalk to call. And the patient's here, and the sidewalk over that, into that corner over there. You're not supposed to leave your patient, that's not good either.
And each email that we get on an update on the radio system, it's a whole different problem.
Jumbo thing last time,
And now it's a GIS clock.
and then the
and a wire not plugged in.
comparator, or whatever it is.
So, you know, do they know themselves?
And then you have to get TC Communications, some other out of California is what I searched today.
Yeah, I noticed that. Well, I guess we'll have an update Thursday on something too.
I hope so. The biggest thing is we need a possible MOU to review too. We could have possible movement on any financing scenario, but if you don't have the MOU,
That's, I think from what I understand, that's getting ready to come to us.
well, it needs to be gotten to Luttrell so he can get it to Mr. Gregory to review it.
All right, gentlemen, anything else? If, Mr. Tadlock, you don't have anything else?
No, sir.
All right, I'll entertain a motion and go into closed meeting.
I moved to go in closed meeting based upon the language Mr. Tadlock's going to supply.
Yep. All right, got a motion second. I'm waiting on you, Mr. Tadlock.
Need a motion that the Northumberland County Board of Supervisors convene in a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2, 3711A1, for the discussion and consideration of personnel matters. Invite you to attend the closed meeting as necessary, or the county administrator, as they are deemed necessary in their presence, will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the topics to be discussed pursuant to Virginia FOIA Section 2.2, 3712F.
I so move that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Everybody else left?
Yes, sir.
All right, I need a motion to come out of closed meeting.
You want me to read?
I'd like for you to read whatever we
Yes, sir.
need.
Need a motion that the Northumberland Board of Supervisors return to public meeting and certify by roll call vote that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting, were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any other discussion? If not, Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Brand?
Aye.
Mr. Tomlin?
Aye.
Mr. Haney, aye. And Mr. Judd is absent. All right, Mr. Tadlock, what else you have?
That's all I have this evening.
You need any action on anything?
No, sir.
Let's see, we have a meeting on Thursday. We need to close this one.
Yeah, unless somebody wants to meet between now and then,
Now, we can leave it open. It's up to the board.
I'd say, I move that we close the April meeting.
All right, I got a motion second.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank everyone for coming, and then we'll see you Thursday at 5:30.
Because if we have a special meeting, we notify the press and we go forward.